Do you take these on your hunts? Are they worth it? Let's find out. Hello, ghost hunters. Let's talk about Firelights. In my experience, this item's overlooked by a lot of players, but it's a staple on every single one of my hunts. One big change to candles that came with the Ascension update are the candles found inside of your locations. For whatever reason, developers decided that having a candle provided inside the house was just a bit too overpowered, and instead they've made it so they can't be moved. I'm personally not a big fan of this change, as I loved collecting these items to light up the room that we are setting up our investigation. Along with this, many of the candles in the Chapel of Sunny Meadows are now unlit, and they cannot be lighted by players. It makes the chapel, which has no overhead lighting, a very dark room. And why exactly do these candles provide spotlights on the wall? You'll need to be certain that you bring an igniter to light these firelights, regardless of the tier. Keep in mind all the igniters are consumable with the exception of the tier 3, so to light one firelight, you're likely consuming 2 items. So let's talk about the different tiers of firelights. This item is your basic candlestick with the cheapest and smallest candle devs could find. It's so cheap, it burns out after only 3 minutes of providing light. 3 minutes. That is a seriously fast-burning candle. Its range is only 2 meters, so it really doesn't provide hardly any light. It is placeable and consumable, but here's the interesting part of Firelights. They provide sanity drain reduction. Granted, this candle has a tiny range and will only provide 2 minutes of this sanity drain reduction. In total, it can prevent sanity drain by 33%, which, let's be real, isn't very much. So is it worth even bringing the tier 1 Firelight? Of course. There's an objective for getting the ghost to blow it out, so you should still bring at least one on every hunt. Just keep in mind that you have that short 3-minute window to get the ghost to blow it out, and once you've lit it, it is consumed. And if you're bringing the tier 1 Firelight, then you're also likely bringing the tier 1 or tier 2 lighter, which is also consumable. So I suppose you should make it worth it and be sure that your ghost blows it out. The tier 2 Firelight has 3 separate candles, but despite our efforts to light just one at a time, we apparently lack the fine motor skills and instead light all 3. While these candles are higher quality, they still only last for 5 minutes. Supposedly, it's much brighter than the tier 1, but it still only has a range of 2 meters. So that seems unlikely. It is placeable and it is consumable, but here's why it's more interesting than the tier 1. It reduces sanity drain by 50%, but it does not have to be held for players to gain this effect. Supposedly this works while placed. But I tested this and it doesn't seem to work. To reduce sanity drain for yourself and teammates, someone must be holding the candle. This item can provide sanity drain for multiple players at the same time, but they must be within that 2-meter range. Now on to the only truly decent firelight in the game, the tier 3. If you are at least level 79, this is a firelight you should bring with you on every hunt. It is not consumable, so there is no reason to ever go without it. It also has a range of 2 meters, but it provides a decent amount of light. So much light, in fact, that I prefer this over a flashlight. And on top of all these other amazing features, it is also waterproof, so you can use it in all those campsite hunts even if it's raging a storm. It also provides sanity drain reduction at 66% and will provide this to all players nearby when held by at least one player. I tested this item when it was placed as well, and it definitely did not prevent sanity drain while placed. Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, that's amazing sanity drain reduction. And yes, it is. But keep in mind that before the Ascension update, all candles provided 100% sanity reduction, if held. So while this makes it so that players can keep sanity drain at bay a bit for all players with just one, you can't completely stave off that inevitable low or 0 sanity. Overall, this feels like a win though, with the bright light provided by the tier 3 Firelight. One caveat to the Firelight, it is a bit buggy. While testing this item, players who hid too close to walls or corners often lost their sanity reduction, and the game registered that these players were actually in full darkness. And at least once, this item became completely glitched and sanity drain continued even after standing in the middle of the room, relighting the Firelight, dropping and picking the Firelight back up, and even coming outside and then going back inside. Keep in mind that for my testing, we intentionally kept players away from the ghost haunting area and did not use other tools for the investigation. We also had sanity drain at 200% for our testing. So while the Tier 3 Firelight is amazing, it does have a few drawbacks. One interesting thing that I've noticed about the Firelight, how you see yourself hold it and how other players view you holding it, is not the same. I don't know why this inconsistency exists, but I'd guess it has something to do with player models. Also, some players report having issues walking straight if they crouch while holding the lantern. This same bug exists for the Tier 3 incense and for tripods, and yes, it is annoying. Ghosts can blow out any Firelight if they are within 3 meters of it. When this happens, players will hear an audible sound of the ghost blowing it out. These Firelights can also go out during events and hunts, and if you're bringing those low-quality candles, they will go out when they have completely burned down. This is visible on the candles themselves. Also, if your ghost blows out a Firelight, you can take a photo of it as it counts as an interaction. Only one ghost is affected by the Firelights. The Onryo does not like fire and thus will blow out candles and lanterns. Every third fire blown out by the Onryo will start a hunt. This can be blocked by a second flame or a crucifix. Because of this, the Onryo can hunt very early, and some locations, like the Chapel of Sunny Meadows, are very dangerous if your ghost happens to be an Onryo. But it is very important to remember, the Onryo is not more likely to blow out flames than other ghosts, at least until at least one player has died. With each dead player, the frequency of blowing out candles increases, but not until someone has died. For this reason, it is recommended that players always keep at least 2 Firelights lit at all times if they suspect that their ghost may be an Onryo. The second flame will act as a crucifix, preventing any hunts, at least until the Firelight is blown out. Keep in mind the Tier 2 Firelight counts as just one flame. Also, it's not recommended that you sacrifice your teammates to verify that your ghost is an Onryo, or so I'm told. Firelights also have one major benefit over flashlights. They are not electrical. Because of this, players can hold a Firelight during a hunt without being detected by the ghost. And since you're bringing an igniter with you on your hunts, you should know that you can actually use these little guys as miniature lights. By lighting and dropping the igniter at the same time, it will drop the igniter on the ground while remaining lit. It may take a few tries to get the hang of it, but overall, this is a neat little trick. Keep in mind that the Tier 3 igniter will only remain lit for 10 minutes before going out, and the Tier 2 will remain lit for up to 5 minutes. But the Tier 3 is not consumable, so using this for extra lighting is still a great option. Just know that after 10 minutes, it will run out of fuel and cannot be relit. If you do this with a Tier 2 igniter, remember that it is consumable and will need to be replaced for future hunts, and it only lasts for 5 minutes. You should also note that ghosts can blow out the flame from igniters just like they can blow out a Firelight, but it does not count toward the objective. Igniters also do not prevent sanity drain, even though they do provide some light. Another interesting bit of information, some items act as Firelights. If you have the objective to have the ghost blow out a Firelight, this works in locations with candles that can be lit like in the Chapel of Sunny Meadows or any of the farmhouses or houses. This will also work if the ghost puts out a campfire in either campsite location. However, these items do not prevent sanity drain. So, standing near a campfire or a candle to prevent sanity drain will net no benefit. They also do not raise the temperature of the room. Also keep in mind that developers have said that they will be increasing the duration and light range for all tiers of the Firelights, giving players new ways to walk around in dark areas. This hasn't been released yet and there is not a release date, but it should come sometime soon. Obviously, the Tier 3 Firelight, the lantern, is miles ahead of the other Firelights. If you have these available, they are great and I highly recommend using them. If you are less familiar with maps, it is a great way to get to a hiding spot when a ghost is hunting, rather than turning your flashlight off and then fumbling around in the dark looking for a hiding spot. Lanterns are relatively cheap, and because they are not consumable and are waterproof, they are great for every hunt. They provide light if the location does not have a working breaker, but a higher sanity drain reduction does help give players a bit more time to investigate and figure out their ghost. And for those of you who are running high multiplayer games with no sanity, they provide decent lighting to get a look at your ghost when it is hunting. What do you think of the Firelights? Do you use them in your hunts? Did you know they provide sanity drain reduction? Are these a staple in your hunts, or do you mostly avoid them? Let me know in the comments how you use this item. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and as always, happy hunting. too close to walls. Mittens has to go for a run.